Good morning, everybody. So what happened? Good morning. As usual, before we start our actual Dharma class, so everybody sit very comfortably. If you could, please sit the meditation posture. If you cannot, the most important, so you need to sit very comfortably. If you cannot do the cross leg, if you try to force to do, the meditation posture, then you cannot sit more than like 10, 20 minutes. Therefore, at the beginning, everybody please sit very comfortably, whether you sit on the chair, on the bed, on the cushion, wherever you sit comfortably. The second, first, we need to check, we need to analyze our motivation for attending a Dharma class or studying Dharma. So our motivation for studying, practicing Dharma is only for one achievement, which is Buddhahood, which is free from all kinds of suffering. Please check your motivation. So when we have a motivation for achieving Buddhahood, motivation for free from all kinds of sufferings, then our daily, the important things will come with the great motivation. You don't need separate motivation for free from, certain problem in our daily life. Then how we can achieve Buddhahood? Can we or we cannot? Can we or cannot? The answer is yes, definitely. We can be Buddha, we can achieve the enlightened state through meditation, through practice the Dharma, through practicing Dharma. In order to practice Dharma, we need to know why I need Dharma, why Dharma is so important. Then you need to reflect about your life. Particularly, you need the six ideas or six, contemplation about yourself. So first, the Dharma is like a medicine, the ultimate, real medicine can cure all kinds of problems and suffering in our daily life. Particularly can cure the inner sufferings, the inner problem. Therefore, please contemplate. The Dharma is like a most important medicine to cure all kinds of external, the internal problems. Second, please remember the Buddha Shakyamuni, all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, particularly your root guru. They are like a important and perfect doctor to give you instruction about curing your problems and suffering. The next, we always need to remember, I am sick person. I have so many sickness, the physical sickness and mental sickness. The most of the physical sickness we have because of the inner sickness, the emotional sickness, particularly the sickness of ignorance. We are sick for millions of years because of the ignorance. So we have a sickness of anger, hatred, desire, attachment. So we always remember, I am a sick person, sick for 24 hours, sick for millions of years. So I want to be healthy. I want to free from the inner and external sickness through applying the Dharma like a most important medicine. So the analogy is very important. So medicine and sickness. So we need to see doctor. We need to get a prescription. So we have so many doctors. We met, we have been meeting so many doctors. Doctor from Tibet, doctor from China, doctor from Taiwan, doctor from Singapore. We have all kinds of, Dharma doctors. Also, we receive more than enough instruction, more than enough prescription. Also, we bought, more than enough medicine. What means you study and you fully understood the importance of practicing Dharma. You realize I need to practice Dharma. I need to practice compassion, cure the sickness of anger. I need to practice, meditate and essenceless ugliness to cure the sickness of attachment, the sickness of desire. I need to do a lot of meditation about selflessness, emptiness, for curing the sickness of ignorance. We fully realize that we already bought in a medicine, but the medicine which you bought for, for many years, we don't really eat the medicine first. We eat just only one time once a month, maybe once a day. If we take medicine, the doctor said, you must take the medicine, every 3 hours, every 2 hours. But you are taking only once a day. That means the medicine cannot really, affect for the sickness. Likewise, we need to study, we need to understand. The studying, understanding, and applying is different. Therefore, next you really need to practice the Dharma for 24 hours. Clear? 24 hours. When you then you can say, how I can practice Dharma for 24 hours? I need to spend time with my family. I need a time for my workplace. I need a time for making money. I need time for, drinking and eating. I have to do so many things within one day. How I can spend my time for 24 hours with the Dharma? My answer for you is very simple. When you apply Dharma, you don't have to sit, in the corner. You don't have to sit as a meditation posture. Close your eyes, do meditation. No. Also, it doesn't mean you just sit somewhere, hold the mala, recite the mantra. No. Or you don't need to do the prostration, prostration mudra, do prostration. No. So for the 24 hours, you watch your minds. When you watch your mind, when you analyze your minds, sometimes you can find, yes, I have a lot of negative thoughts. No good, I must reduce, I must control. Someday you find, oh, somehow I have a lot of positive thoughts. A positive thought I must enhance, I must, develop further more. Make sure you don't have any kind of negative thoughts while you are eating, drinking, talking with your friends and family, working in your workplace. Try to have a pure mind. Try to have a positive thoughts. That means you are applying the Dharma for 24 hours. While you are eating, you need to remember all the people who produce the food. While you are drinking, you remember those people, those companies, those workers who produce the drink like a tea, coffee, juice, water. When you wear clothes, you must realize the clothes you are wearing is come through so millions of people. So remember them, develop love and compassion towards them. Therefore, you must apply Dharma for 24 hours every day. Then you can feel, oh, I'm much happier than before. I have a less negative thoughts than before. Right? Therefore, please remember the 6th idea about the Dharma. The most important, always realize I'm a sick person, sick for millions of years. So this life is the most important life. In the past, you already had millions of life. Sometimes you became, very powerful person. Maybe you used to be a very powerful king, very powerful businessman, very powerful artist. But in the past, we didn't achieve the ultimate happiness. Right? So this lifetime is the most crucial, most important time for us because we are very intelligent. We have, more than enough qualified teacher. So we are physically, mentally, we are very healthy. We have a good time to study Dharma. The most important, we need to practice Dharma. If we're not able to achieve something this lifetime, then means we really lost the opportunity forever. 6 adya. Then next, so in order to free from suffering achievement, we need to practice dharma. Then in order to practice dharma, you need to have the 6 idea about yourself, like a doctor, medicine, taking medicine. Then finally, you really have really pure respect to the teacher Buddha Shakyamuni, have a pure respect to the dharma, because you realize Buddha Shakyamuni, all the lineage guru are very important to give you instruction. They are most important instructor. Then you have a pure respect to the teaching, right? Next, so in order to practice dharma, we need to listen the teaching. So when we listen the teaching, please remember the 6, the falls. Free from the 3 falls and attend the teaching. Even though when you read a dharma book, still you need the 3 pure vessel. Read the dharma book focusfully with the pure motivation. Whatever you read, whatever you learn from the books, you need to remember. So you read the book in the morning, afternoon, you already forgot how you can practice dharma. Right? Next, we study very short time for how to teach the dharma. Right? Six ideas. So, with what sort of thoughts and behavior you should explain the teaching? That means, so we are the attender who attend the teaching. Now, when the teacher teach dharma, what sort of thoughts, motivation the teacher must have? So what kind of behavior, the behavior the teacher must have? Therefore, thoughts. With regard to your thoughts, develop the 5 ideas set forth in the question of Sangramati Sutra. So when the teacher, the guru, the master teach dharma, the teacher must have 6 thoughts. 5 ideas or 5 thoughts. Thinking of the teacher, him or herself as a doctor. That means the teacher must think, oh, those people who listen my teaching, they look like sick person. Now today, the teacher must think, I'm like a doctor. Right? The teacher as a medicine. The teaching which I give to them, the teaching which is I, teach to them, these look like medicine. Then those listening to the teaching as a sick person, and the Tathagata as excellent beings, and wish that the teaching remain for a long time. So the teacher must have 6 idea. Teacher himself or herself, I must look like a doctor. Those people who attend, the teacher, the guru teaching, those look like sick person. The teaching which is taught to the students, the teaching look like medicine. The listening people are sick person. Then Tathagata, excellent being. Then the last one, wish the teaching remain for a long time. That means that when the teacher teaches dharma, must have a pure motivation, pure, intention. The ancient time, when we just imagine the doctor and patient, when the patient comes to see the doctor have a pure love and compassion, give the proper treatment. The doctor never asks, pay money. Now, the system has changed. There's a price. That means there's no really love and compassion between doctor and doctor and sick person. But the relationship between students and guru always must remain same way. The teacher always consider, I'm a doctor, those are my patient, I must treat purely, give the proper treatment without any condition, right? Any condition. Then, when you notice the teaching is very important. Therefore, we always do a lot of prayer, flourish the Dharma for 10 direction. I wish the Dharma remain for millions of years, because we notice the teacher Dharma is very important, right? This is the how the teacher must have a 6 idea. Then next one, when the teacher explained, the teaching, then the teacher, I think there's a long paragraph from the Lotus Sutra says, the learned always give without jealous. Without jealous. When the teacher, when the guru teach Dharma, the teacher should not have a jealous, should not have a jealousy. But this day, also we can see within the teachers, within the guru, they are jealous each other. Oh, he or she has a many disciple I don't have. Then the teacher jealous to the other teacher. So the teacher should not have any jealousy about teaching, about disciples, about position, about power. Sweet sounding teaching with the mindful meaning. So when the teacher teach with the nice words, with the all the meaning, make sure the student can understand. Having thoroughly cast aside laziness as well. Therefore, training disciple is not easy at all. In my monastery in South India, one teacher have to teach to the student minimum like 25 years. Make sure the student, moving step by step until from the, the collective topic all the way to the Tantrayana teaching. Therefore, if the teacher become lazy, that student can have a bad effect, bad influence. The teacher should not be laziness, should not be lazy. For example, we can see, we most of us know, the historian the 14th Dalai Lama. He's around almost 87 years old, but he always willing to discuss with the different people, always willing to give a teaching. Of course, as an 86-year-old, person feels so tired, but he doesn't have the laziness. Therefore, for any kinds of teacher, they should not have a laziness, should not be lazy. They are not desperate to repeat the teaching again and again. Because when the teacher ensures the student, if you really understand, then the teacher need to repeat, again and again and again. Also, sometimes the student will ask, all kinds of questions, but the teacher should not feel, desperate. These are the, kind of quality of the teacher must have. And they cultivate the power for love towards those around them. Cultivate love, very important. The Dharma teacher, the teacher who teach Dharma, they must have a purely love, not any kind of condition to get something from the disciples. Towards those around them, day and night, they cultivate the supreme teaching. Using millions of examples, they learn, bring joy and delight to those listening to their teachings. So these are the qualities the teacher must have. Then there's a very, very important sentence here. Not thinking of sustain heart or soul food and food or drink, clothes. They ask nothing at all from those listening to their teachings, rather than learn, always think. This is also very important. The teacher always have just one motivation. I wish they learn well. I wish they practice well. The teacher doesn't think if I teach them, they can give me food and clothes and money. Right? No. If the teacher has this kind of motivation, then the Dharma cannot be pure. The Dharma will be the condition. Right? And all living beings achieve Buddhahood. Right? That the teacher thing. The learned always think, may I, myself, and all living beings achieve Buddhahood. And whatever teaching I impart in order to help the world is completely, a favorable condition for my happiness. That means the teacher must have this quality. If the teacher give a lot of condition, that means the teacher look like, not really the right, perfect teacher. Then the next, the conclusion. Yes, you have 6 ideas. The teacher has 5 ideas. You fully realize, teacher is very important. The teaching will remain for many years. Also, you realize, the teacher has all qualities. Then you attend the teaching, listen to the teaching. Then at the end, every season, what we should do together. How a session should be conclude in relation to the both hearing and explaining the teaching. Therefore, every day when we finish our class, we do dedication. That means the teacher and students both together dedicate the merit. Therefore, with strong aspiration, dedicate the virtues that have arisen from explaining and hearing the teaching to your temporary and final achievement. Temporary and final. This one, how we should dedicate. For the, final, I dedicate the merit for becoming Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. Then temporarily, you can dedicate for, different purpose. If you are sick, or I dedicate the merit for, free from sickness. I dedicate the merit to benefit for my friends and my relatives. So when you dedicate, please remember the 2 things. The temporary and final achievement. Right. The next, then yes, Dharma is very important. So we need a person who can explain the pure teaching. So when we listen the teaching, when we attend, the teaching, we need to look the teaching from the Dharma point of view, not the culture point of view. For example, when we attend teaching from the Chinese master, the Chinese master, he or she where the Chinese, religious dress, culturally different, the language different, environment different, the way of giving teaching is different. It doesn't mean that teaching is different than the Tibetan. Also, when you attend teaching from Tibetan master, the culture, the language, the custom are different. It doesn't mean that teaching is different. Therefore, we always need to, look from the Dharma point of view, not the culture point of view. When we look at from the culture point of view, then we can think, oh, this teaching, that teaching is different because the person look different, culture different, language different. No, we need to look from the Dharma point of view, right? So we need to rely on the teaching. And then the teaching must receive from the teacher. So when we try to receive the teaching from the teacher, we need, qualify teacher. The qualification is very important. Even though when you offer simple job to someone, you check the qualification. Even though you have a small coffee shop, food court, so somebody asks a job from you, definitely you check. Does he or she has a qualification able to cook, able to clean, able to wash dishes? We check the qualification. Therefore, it is very, very important. You need to check the qualification of the teacher. Right? Therefore, here, relying on the teacher, how to learn students with the actual instruction. Right? Then there's a two. How to rely on the teacher, how the student train their mind after having relied on the teaching. The first, how to rely on the teacher has two parts. There are two parts to explanation to how to rely on the teacher. Somewhat elaborate explanation for developing the certain knowledge. Now we study a little bit about the qualification of the general teacher, the religious teacher. Therefore, the teaching from Atisha said, one who abides in the lineage of the Mahayana first rely on the excellent teacher. Excellent teacher. So when you abide, when you practice the Mahayana teaching, you need to rely on the excellent teacher. What does mean excellent teacher? Right? Then before that, one of the Tibetan masters said Domdumpa, also Tolbopa, one of the very high practitioner in Tibet. Of all the personal instruction, do not give up the excellent teacher as the prime instruction. So whatever we need to receive the instruction, how to overcome suffering, how to achieve Buddhahood, the most important, you should not give up the teacher. You always need to rely on the teacher. For example, when we watch, the documentary about the animal planet, you can see the mother elephant, how to take care of the baby. Always checking, make sure the baby is not going far away. You're always checking. Therefore, the teacher also need to make sure the student is, practice properly according to Buddha teaching. So if you give up, rely on the teacher, then your practice cannot goes in the right direction. Therefore, what he said, those excellent teacher is the source of all temporary happiness and the certain goodness. beginning with the production of the single good quality and the reduction of the single faults in the student mind, eventually encompassing all the knowledge beyond that. Therefore, that means when we get a little bit like the virtuous mind, it depends on the instruction. Instruction depends on the instructor. When we try to reduce negative thoughts, also we need instructor. Right? Therefore, rely on teacher is very important. But if you rely on the teacher who doesn't have any qualification, even though doesn't matter how much he or she is very famous, still we need qualification. For example, this day, the Apple product, one of the famous production. The Apple, when you buy the Apple, the cover, the body, like the body cover, it look like say Apple. There's an Apple logo, exactly acting is Apple. If inside they put, like Oppo, like electric things, Oppo, Samsung, you really believe this is Apple, but the phone doesn't function as an Apple. Therefore, someone is very famous, it doesn't mean the person is very qualified teacher. Because many of you have been meeting, many Tibetan lamas and Rinpoche. When you look at the history, look like all the Tibetan Rinpoches look like Buddha. You are very much mistaken. Yes, which is his previous life. He was very famous, very learned, very educated, very famous, has millions of students. It doesn't mean this lifetime, the reincarnation of the Rinpoche, we no need to look as same as previous Rinpoche. Therefore, most of the history, when you look at the Rinpoche, they always mention the previous Lama is very famous, very learned, all kinds of good things. Then we think the reincarnation has the same quality. You are really mistaken. We should not think that way. What does it mean qualification, right? Therefore, here, the defining characteristic of the teacher to be relied upon generally in the scripture and the commentary, many define characteristic of the teacher are taught from the viewpoint of the individual vehicle. However, the following is the description of the teacher who entrusts you in the stage to the part to three principles of different capacity. So first, Lama Tsongkhapa explained the general qualification of the teacher or guru. What are they? Then from the sutra, rely on Mahayana teacher who is disciplined, serene, thoroughly pacified. First three important quality. First, discipline. Then practice morality, practice ethical discipline, train well themselves. Second, like a serene, mean very calm mind. Third, thoroughly pacified, mean practice ethical discipline, practice the single-pointed meditation, and pacify the negative thoughts, mean three mind trainings. As good quality, suppressing those of the student in inner energetic as a well of the scripture knowledge. Those are the quality. Among the three quality, first, make sure the teacher is disciplined. Practice ethical discipline. That why the ethical discipline is very important. If the teacher, the guru is not disciplined person, then the guru or the teacher, the famous guru teacher, can be do a lot of wrong things. Therefore, 10 in ethical discipline. The second is not just, have a good ethical discipline. The teacher, the guru must do proper meditation. That meditation, whatever he or she learn, he or she need to apply in daily life, do the proper meditation. Between these two conditions, based on these two conditions, then the guru can thoroughly pacify the negative thoughts. That means the teacher has a good quality to teach Dharma to the disciples. Right? That's very important, 3 qualities. Then, Safai has some good qualities, suppressing those of the student. The teacher must have a better quality about Dharma than the students. Sometimes you can see the student has a better Dharma knowledge than the teacher. If this is the case, then the teacher not going to learn anything from the teacher. We have experience like that, right? Because the Rinpoche, the teacher is very famous, or he or she look like Bodhisattva, so we did all the biography in his previous life. Therefore, look at this lifetime, the reincarnation of the Rinpoche, any kind of Rinpoche, doesn't have those quality. Still, you accept, he or she is my guru, but actually, in fact, you have a better knowledge than the reincarnation. Then, what is the benefit you can have? Just rely on the reincarnation as your guru. You're not going to get any benefits, right? So therefore, the teacher must have a far better knowledge of Dharma than the students. Then the teacher must be, energetic. When the teacher teach Dharma, the teacher must be very energetic with a sense of patience. That energetic, need to repeat again and again, many hours, many days, many years, energetic. The wealth of the scripture knowledge. That means the teacher must be very rich about Dharma knowledge. Possessing loving consent. Yes, the teacher is trained well in the 3, the maintaining. The teacher have a much better quality education or Dharma knowledge than the students. The teacher is very energetic. The most important one, the teacher must possess loving consent. The teacher must, have a sense of loving, sense of compassion to the disciples. Right? Disciple. If the teacher doesn't have a sense of loving and compassion, then the teacher can deceive the students. So therefore, here the possess loving compassion, loving concern, has throw out knowledge of reality. That means also the teacher must have a, if the teacher must have a realized emptiness. If not, the teacher must have a right understanding of emptiness. And skill in instructing disciple. That means the teacher must have a very skillful means, be very skillful how to teach the teaching to the students. And the last one has abandoned the, desperateness. That means first, 3 maintainings, 3, and has good qualities better qualities, better quality from the students, energetic, wealth, very richness for scripture knowledge, possessing loving conscience, has a thought knowledge of reality, and skillful in the instruction, and has abandoned the disparateness. Those are the quality. If you rely on the person who has these qualities, then you feel very secure, very comfortable, rely on the teacher. Because he or she not going to deceive you. He or she doesn't give you condition. Yes, this day you can say many teachers, oh, you want to listen my teacher, my teaching, you must bring this. Right? These are the condition. Okay, I don't think we have so today we just explain the qualification of the teacher. So next we do more precisely, then we study about qualification of the student. Then we move to the lemma of the part 2, Adisha. Then we, after a few days, then we will study about the middle meditation stage. Okay, so next we can have a little bit a discussion, timing for discussion. So before we start the discussion, somebody asked a question related to the recognition. Also, I will read. Question to you from someone, Geshe-la, how about if the reincarnation of our teacher, for someone people have experienced that the little boy can remember past life story, happen between them individually and the teacher, what will you respond to this? That means when you meet the little boys and girls, look like that the little boys and girls look like remember that previous life story, and also it look like they recognize the disciple, right? How about if the reincarnation of our teacher, for extra, I think some people have experienced that the little boy can remember past life stories, happen between them individually, and the teachers, what will you, and the teacher, what will you respond? Let's say, I think some of you have experienced, oh, the reincarnation of my guru look like he or she remember his previous story about his previous life. It's a very funny, because we just believe he or she can remember his previous life story, right? If you really believe the little boy can remember the previous life, the little boy, the little girl with a recognition of your guru, does he or she remember his daily recitation and chanting? Most of them cannot. Does he or she able to read even though the alphabet, kaka, ganga, cha, cha, janya, have to learn one by one, ka, ka, ga, nga, for a few weeks. Then why he or she cannot remember the daily recitation, chanting, writing, alphabet? Only the story remember, cannot remember anything else. Right? Again, it doesn't make sense. So my answer you, yes, you have this kind of experience based on your ignorance, based on your blind faith. Number one. Number two, if the boy can remember previous life story, for example, I'm staying in TBC, right? TBC for 8 years. I know many of your story. Many of them know my story. My name is Geshe Yonde. I was both brother in Sansa. They know my story. They pass away. They're born in somewhere. He or she can tell my story. Then how I know the boy is my reincarnation? Maybe the boy or girl may be reincarnation of Pauline, maybe reincarnation of the Winnie. They can tell my story. How you know the boy is the unmistaken reincarnation of your guru. So this also very question, big question. The next, what we next another question here. What can feel the energy and the blessing from the little boy or girl? Explorer one can feel the presence of one guru in the little boy and remember us for the teaching, instruction and blessing of the guru. This is little boy remind one instruction of the guru who passed away. Hence it is not that, it is in this way one maintain the respectful, right? Also, again, based on your blind faith. How is happen? For example, everything is our mind. So before we meet the boys and girls, we just believe he or she is an unmistaken reincarnation of your guru. You already believe, you fully believe. So when you meet the boys, you feel very positive energy. Something kind of amazing feeling around there. The feeling comes based on your belief. There's not such as, that energy is there. For example, today, you met, let's say yesterday you met someone which is very famous in the world. Very famous, also you're very famous. But you didn't know you met the famous person yesterday in the MRT. You talk to the person, spend maybe 10, 20 minutes, you chit-chat on the MRT, then you separate. The next day, you notice the person was very famous. Then next day you went to see again, next day you went to meet the person again. That time you have a very different feeling. Yesterday you didn't have any special feeling. Today, when you see the person, then you can feel, wow, the energy, big difference, because you notice, you believe. For example, based on our experience, when we meet, for example, I'm a Tibetan monk, when I meet Dalai Lama, I feel so joy, so happiness, a lot of positive energy for us. Let's say my friend also went to see Dalai Lama with me. He's just normal, Western people. He doesn't have this kind of belief about Dalai Lama. He said, oh yeah, I met Dalai Lama. I talked to Dalai Lama. He doesn't have this kind of energy feeling because he doesn't have that belief. It doesn't mean you met the unmistaken reincarnation. Right? This is answer for you whoever asked the question. Okay, next we have a half-hour discussion. So it's mainly for discuss based on question. Is there any question?
Yes, Geshe-la.
Yes,
so
please.
How do we find a qualified teacher in Singapore? How do teacher and student meet the first time?
Because you are not, looking a person who you can chit-chat. You are not looking a person you can have a, something lunch and dinner and coffee. No, you're not looking this kind of person. You're looking a person who can really teach you Dharma. This is your desire for looking a person. Doesn't matter he or she. Doesn't matter, like a Tibetan, Chinese, Singapore, Malay. You are looking a person who really can teach you the pure Dharma. This is your motivation, right? Therefore, you need to study about the Guru, where he is from. For you, it doesn't matter from which country, doesn't matter which citizen he or she has, citizenship, doesn't matter. Still, you need to check, where he study. He has a Dharma knowledge or not. You need to do certain, kind of investigation about the Guru, about the teacher. After you fully investigate, yes, he or she studied that monastery, that institute for 15 years, 20 years, whatever. That means you know he has a Dharma knowledge. Second, how you know the teacher is very compassionate, the teacher is very honest, the teacher is very disciplined. Second, based on your investigation, you need to meet the person. When you meet the person based on curiosity, you need to explore more about the person. Is a second step. In order to fully understand, understood the person, you need to spend time. You attend the teaching, like once a week, twice a week, discuss with the person based on curiosity. After you spend with the person, like once a week, twice a month, then you think, this person has some Dharma knowledge. He's a very genuine person. Is okay, I just attend his or her teaching. But still, you should not accept, the person is my Guru until you fully acknowledge about him. Then you can accept him or her as your Guru, because he or she is qualified teacher, compassionate, honest, everything there. Then you can say, okay, he or she is my Guru. Therefore, since I've been in Singapore almost 8 years, for the 8 years, I always say I'm your study partner. Or you can say I teach Dharma. I never ever think I'm a Guru to any of you. We are study partner. Also, you can learn something from me. Also, I can learn something from you. So when I receive question, also I can learn so many things. So we are equally exchanging our Dharma knowledge. Therefore, first investigation about the biography of the Lama. Please, you really need to forget about what he looked like in the previous life. This is cause, really cause you to investigation. If you think, he or she previous life is very famous, then you just think, this recognition also very good, I must accept as a Guru. This is a big mistake. Just forget, his previous life. When you see doctor, you don't care, his father and mother, when he did, when he was young. Yeah. General investigation. Second, spend time with him or her for maybe 1 or 2 years, not continuously in some time, based on curiosity. Then definitely you can feel, he's the right teacher. I can accept him as my Guru, not teacher, not only teacher, right? Then after you rely on the teacher, sometimes there's always problem. The misunderstanding, miscommunication. The teacher asks you to do, you do like 1,000 prostration today, or do millions of prostration for the 1 year. So you are very lazy. You feel so tired. Then slowly you think, how come my teacher is so rude, so cruel? Right? They said never give up. Never give up. After you rely on the qualified teacher, in between some kind of misunderstanding, always there. All the gurus are not Buddha. All the gurus are not Bodhisattva. The problem must be there. That time you have to be very careful. Make sure there's no misunderstanding. Make sure there's not miscommunication. Make sure some problem you have is not because of guru, because of me. But we have a tendency, we always criticize other. We always pointing other. We never pointing ourselves. Also, sometimes you need to pointing yourself. Then you can find the perfect guru. Okay, next question, please.
Geshe-la, what is the difference between root guru and teacher? Must we have a root guru? If yes, can we just communicate with him without the root guru physically around? For example, taking His Holiness as an example.
First is very simple. Teacher, guru is very different. For example, you have an English teacher, math teacher, science teacher. Somebody teach you how to swim. Somebody teach you how to do yoga. Those are teacher, not guru. Guru must teach how to overcome from suffering. Guru must teach how to achieve Buddhahood. Guru must teach how to realize emptiness. The guru is more about this, the teaching about the spiritual part to enlightenment, to liberation. So it's very clear, teacher is guru different. All the gurus are teachers. All the gurus are teacher. All the teachers are not guru. Very simple. Then also, I have been hearing from some of our Dharma friends. Also, I saw one of the, Tibetan Rinpoche said, you can have only one root guru. You cannot have a two. This is a mistake. Maybe certain traditions say, okay, you have only one root guru, not two. You can have many root gurus. I think Lama Marba has almost 115 gurus, root guru. Right? Adisha has many root guru. His Holiness Dalai Lama has many root guru. The most important was a two root guru. His Holiness has a Ling Rinpoche and teacher. Those are root guru. Root guru means whom you receive teaching directly. So I received teaching directly from Dalai Lama. So His Holiness Dalai Lama is my guru. I didn't receive teaching directly from Nagarjuna, Aryadeva, Shantideva, but still I received their teaching through someone. Then those are my lineage guru, not the root guru. But you say the continuum guru, not the root. Root guru means whom you receive teaching directly. Those are your root guru. Also, you can accept, for example, some of you, haven't met Dalai Lama. Still, you have been attending, teaching by Zoom, by YouTube. Definitely, you can accept, in your mind, oh, Dalai Lama is my guru. You don't have to meet in person, because the relationship between guru and, like students is a mental relation, mental connection. You don't have to meet in person. Yeah. So this is an answer for you.
Yeah. Next question comes from Christine. Christine?
Geshe-la,
Yes?
I'm still not very clear in understanding these afflictive obscurations and the cognitive. I think in Tibetan, is it called Mundip and Shidip?
Yes.
Yeah, please.
Afflictive operation Nyuntip.
Mundip.
Cognitive operation Shedip. Right? Tip means occur. Occupation. It's very simple, very simple. For example, the hearer and solitary realizer who achieve liberation, they fully eliminate the afflictive occupation like attachment, anger, desires, they fully eliminate it. But they have a obstacle to cognize all phenomena through direct perception, direct perception. They cannot cognize all phenomena individually. They cannot cognize. Why? There's an occupation to occur, to cognize all phenomena. Particularly, the Arhat who achieve liberation, not Buddhahood, they cannot cognize, they cannot realize the two truths, conventional ultimate truth, simultaneously by one mind. This means cognize two truths simultaneously by one mind. They cannot. Therefore, they call cognitive occupation. Cognize what? Generally cognize all phenomena, particularly cognize two truths simultaneously by one mind. Therefore, cognitive occupation. Quite clear? Still don't understand?
I'll try to contemplate more on it.
Okay, good.
Thank you, Geshe-la.
Next question, please.
Yeah, Geshe-la, back to the questions on Guru again.
Mhm.
So I'm hearing someone says some highly qualified teacher can tell his disciples where to find him after his reborn. Is it true the teachers know his reborn location?
Yes, definitely. The Guru who really has a high realization, definitely they will know, they could know. For example, Buddha Shakyamuni. I don't think anybody has a doubt he is a high realization. Not. Buddha Shakyamuni, he told the Mugalyana. So he gave him the sequential, right? The sequential. He gave to the Mugalyana and asked him to bury it in Tibet. So the Mugalyana went with the sequential, and Tibet. He buried the sequential in Tibet. And he said in the future, one person came to Tibet named with the Lozang. So he will, explore. He will take out the sequential. This means Buddha Shakyamuni know in the future there's a person named Lobsang Takpa, Je Rinpoche. So exactly, so Je Rinpoche. So he really take out the sequential from the mountain, which is buried by Mugalyana. This one. Also, based on Ramatsongkhapa history, he asked one of his important disciple, Gyawa Gendun Tuk. So he already mentioned the last teaching. He asked Gendun Tuk, you go to, like a east part of another Tibet, part of the Tibet. So you will have a monastery. You will have many disciples there. Therefore, Gendun Trungpa moved from, I think, around Lhasa all the way to that area. He established a Tashilumbu monastery. Now you can see slowly so many monasteries able to develop. Many disciples come. The Tashilumbu become very famous monastery. Yes, and also look at, for example, Lama Marpa. That Lama Marpa was very important, very, very, very important teacher of Milarepa. So Lama Marpa, he noticed Milarepa, he is coming to see him. he asked his wife to prepare the local wine when he was, plugging the field. Then he was waiting for Milarepa. Milarepa came to see him. He asked, where's the Lama Marpa? Lama Marpa said, why? I want to see Lama Marpa. Then he said, okay, first you complete the field and drink the local beer, then come to that village, that house, I will introduce Lama Marpa. Yes, these are not just story, it's a real story, but still you can see so many effects in artificial story. Yes, many lamas who has a high realization, who has a clairvoyance, they will know. Also, Lama Tsongkhapa said, my students, this life we have to apart. In the future, I will meet you at the Tushita. Yes. Also, I think second Dalai Lama, I'm not mistaken, actually he's supposed to stay in the Trishilungu monastery. So there's a problem. Then he moved to Drepung. Finally, also he could not, really stay in Drepung due to different reasons. That he really moved in the other part of Tibet. He established 3 monasteries, like 1 monastery there. Then the monastery become, very popular, have a lot of disciples. Yes, that's why my answer is yes. Many high lama who has a high realization, they will know where they can find their disciple, where they can meet the disciple, who are the proper, disciple. For example, Adisha. So before he went to Tibet, he knew he will have a very important disciple in Tibet, Domdumpa. So when he went to Tibet to meet the Tibetan person named Domdumpa, and he really passed all his lineage teaching to Domdumpa. So he knew his disciple is there. Yeah, this is definitely no. And this day, how we know the teacher is coming here to teach you Dharma, right? Now many teachers move in West country because there's a lot of dollar and money, not based on realization to see the disciple. It doesn't mean all teachers are like that. Yes, it's definitely, I think, it's true. Next question.
Yeah. Why the reincarnated can choose the correct set of items that he had used in the past life during the test that he is put through during the searching process?
Generally, I think everybody, when we are little boy, like little boys and very little baby, maybe 1 year old, maybe 6 months, old. I think we can remember. I think everybody has a memory about our previous life, but we cannot tell our parents. We cannot speak. I think everybody has some kind of memory. They can remember a previous life. Then when they became older, slowly everything has changed. Then they could not remember our previous life. Then recognizing, the thing which they used in the previous life, this also is a questionable. For example, like in your family, everybody know you have a very important object, let's say very important diamond kind of statue. You know the shape, you know exactly the size of the diamond Buddha. You know, your father know, your mother know, all your relatives know. This is our, possess our belongings. Then your father pass away, your mother pass away, you pass away. Then all of you born in the same village. Then somebody bring the Buddha statue. Somebody, searching your recognition of your father. Then you recognition your mother recognize, of course he or she can recognize the Buddha. Now how we know the little boys who recognize the Buddha, the boys, guys, recognition your father, can be recognition your father, can be recognition your mother, can be recognition your, sister. How we know, right? Therefore, this also, yes, this is a Tibetan way how we can recognize recognition of in that Lama. Particularly, you saw the famous story of Dalai Lama. So Dalai Lama recognized not just based on able to recognize the objects. This is one. Second, the vision in the Lama, the secret lake. They did a lot of testing. Then the conclusion, they said, oh, this boy must be the unmistaken Dalai Lama, not just based on one kind of, testing, right? So also somebody recognize, all the objects of your home. It doesn't mean, the person you are one of your parents. For example, you have a nanny. If the nanny pass away and born somewhere, the baby also recognize all objects in your house. It doesn't mean the nanny is recognition of your father and mother. Also, is a big question, right? Big question. Yes. Next question.
So, Geshe-la, your respect for His Holiness the Dalai Lama, because you appreciate his qualities of this current life, and it is not important whether His Holiness is an unmistaken reincarnation of the 13th Dalai Lama.
This one, I must know how I connected with Dalai Lama. When I was 16 years old, so His Holiness came to Zanskar. He came to my monastery. That time, we know Dalai Lama is very famous. I'm 16 years old. I just, looking him as a Tibetan monk. I don't have a kind of, very kind of special kind of faith. Just as a little boy, little monk, just looking Dalai Lama. He came to my monastery, have a lunch, give a, short teaching. Then he left to his residence in Zanskar. We don't have. Then I moved to South India. I studied Dharma. Then slowly I learned all his history. Based on the history, I thought, wow, Dalai Lama is something very special. When I feel it's very good. It's not based on his quality, based on his biography, history. Because that time when Dalai Lama came to Debung Monastery, that time there wasn't a lot of security. We have only maybe around 400 monks. Each time when he came to Debung, we have a really good time to see Dalai Lama, go close to him in touching head. But I thought, oh, very happy to see Dalai Lama. He is very famous, based on the story, not based on his quality. Then study gradually Dharma. Then I also learn all the the meaning. Then when I attend his teaching, then I reflect on his teaching, how he present the Sutrayana, Tantrayana, Vajrayana, how he explained, how he present the teaching based on his own experience. Yes, you are very right. For me, I don't care, Dalai Lama previously were famous or not. I just, really believe him as my guru based on knowing his a quality of this life. I don't care the previous life he was famous or not. Also, all of us may be better to go that way. So now you can see how I, connected Dalai Lama first, just Dalai Lama. I didn't have any, very happy feeling. Second, moved to South India. They heard all the history of Dalai Lama, how did he connect, da, 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 da. Then I thought, wow, he's very famous. I'm so happy to see him, just based on famous. Then slowly I recognize, oh, he's not just famous. Actually, he has all the Dharma knowledge, all the quality, not just knowledge, based on experience. Therefore, today, when I think of Dalai Lama, I'm looking Dalai Lama based on those quality, not just famous, not based on the biography, previous life. Yes, next question.
Geshe-la, when we newly know a young Tukus when we travel to India, we should observe him and check his behaviors. And if we feel that in certain ways, the Tukus who are like our friends are behaving inappropriately, is it okay with good intentions to feedback in a respectful way?
Be honest, because I went with group of Singaporean, mainly organized by TBC, to Bodh Gaya, I think maybe 3 times. Also went to India, also Dharamshala with our friends. I'm just observing, about our Dharma friends. Then people really, carry, bunch of the red packets, maybe 40, 50 red packets, and with one wave just khata. They're really going around, see all the Rinpoche. Wow, I met this Rinpoche, I met Rinpoche, you must go, you see, you must see. I really just, stay in corner, I just laughing. Why they are meeting all the Rinpoche, La Khandola or Kudela, or what they can see, I cannot see, right? Because you ask some of your friends to see, oh, this Rinpoche is very famous, go see. Oh, this Lama is very famous, oh, you go see. You are just, leading by a person, you are not like totally like, like cattle. You are just going, see, offer the red bucket, get some blessing. Therefore, in your house, you have so many religious objects to collect from there. So why you are going like that? Why? Have you ever asked the person, why it is so important I see the Rinpoche, that Tulku, that Rinpoche? Right? If you ask the question yourself, did you ask this question to your friend who bring you to see the Rinpoche? I went to, for example, South India with some of Dharma friend. I never asked them to see my root guru. I never asked them, oh, of course, as my guru, I know his quality. How long he practicing? Even though this day he's around, I think, 89 years old. He's still doing a lot of study, a lot of practicing. He's very, important. I never asked you to see my guru because I cannot see that relative. He's my guru. It doesn't mean I push you to accept my guru as your guru. No, right? Therefore, we have been doing so many things without asking questions, without analyzing. Yes, somehow you met a Rinpoche, you become, kind of close to the Rinpoche, then slowly you notice, oh, the Rinpoche is doing, inappropriate things. Of course, still you can be friends with the Rinpoche. You must have a respect. We must have a respect for everybody. Even though I stay in Singapore, TPC, I really respect the people who clean the road. When we have a lot of fruits, biscuit, I bring to them, offer to them. I respect them as a human being. But you must have a respect to the Rinpoche as a just human, brother and sister. You should not have to respect, oh, he's a very precious, something special. Yes, still you can respect, you can, maintain the friendship, but still you don't have to accept the Rinpoche as your guru. There's no point. Clear?
Yeah.
Okay.
Next question. Yeah.
Mhm.
Final question, Geshe-la.
Yes, please.
For clarification, afflictive obscuration is more about feelings while cognitive obscuration is more about thinking or perception?
No. Whoever this question, obscuration is not a feeling. Cognitive obscuration is not a kind of thinking. Attachment is afflictive obscuration. Anger, so totally afflictive obscuration. They obscure to achieve liberation. Until you have, you cannot be liberated. When you eliminate, you achieve liberation. It's not, I'm not talking feeling, not talking about thinking. The example I use many times, you have a piece of garlic, you put in the container. You cook a garlic food in your pot. While you are eating, you can smell the garlic. After you wash the pot, you cannot see the garlic, you cannot see the garlic food. Still there's a smell of the garlic, you can feel it. Right? Tell me, the cognitive obscuration is look like smell in the container after you finish eating garlic. That means you eliminate the afflictive obscuration. That means you throw away, you eat, you add the garlic, finish. Still there's a smell. So cognitive obscuration is a very kind of subtle kind of obstacle. That means attachment is afflictive obscuration. The imprint of the attachment, you can say, cognitive obscuration. But still you need to know which tenets you follow. According to Pasangika, ignorance is afflictive obscuration, not cognitive. Rest of the tenets, their point of view, ignorance is the cognitive obscuration, not afflictive. Therefore, you need to do little bit study about different tenets, different point of view from different tenets. Little bit. You don't have to study so many years. Yeah. Okay, so this is the last question. I really appreciate all of you to asking this question, because I said, we really need to have a question, we discuss, then things become more clear. This is one thing we must have. Things become more clear. The second important, we need to apply. We need to discuss how anger is bad. Right? Through discussion, through experience, we notice anger is very bad. Then we need to stop anger. If you don't stop anger, it's not enough to have a knowledge about how anger is very bad. Also, we need to discuss, we need to study about compassion, how it is very important. Then, when we notice it is very important, then we need to practice, we need to apply our daily life. If you don't apply, then you have a lot of knowledge, right? So, therefore, it is so important to have a discussion. Feel free to have a discuss. Feel free to have a criticism, like criticize. I don't feel bad about if you criticize me. If you criticize about my question, my answer, I'm not going to feel very bad. It's very important to have a Q&A. So many of you ask question. I really appreciate and thank you so much. Also, thank you so much all of you to attend this Sunday class. Sunday is your resting day, your holiday, but still you sacrifice your morning sleeping, you attend the class. The most important, I hope, through the Saturday class, you got certain knowledge, how to control your anger, how to develop your compassion, how to have a harmonious with your families, how to have a harmonious with your friends and family, how to have a better life, how to have a better understanding each other, particularly living as a family. I really hope you can, having certain benefit from our Sunday class. And thank you so much. Have a happy Sunday. At the end, we do dedication. First, you just reflect, on the merit we have accumulated this morning through our meditation, through our studying, through our Dharma discussion. Definitely, we have accumulated great amount of merit. We cannot see, but we have accumulated merit. All the merit, first we dedicate for, the ultimate, the lasting happiness, which is achieving Buddhahood. Second, we dedicate the merit for having the right understanding of emptiness, to able to practice bodhicitta and 6 perfections, which is the pure path to achieve Buddhahood. Last, in our daily life, we can have, we definitely we can have so many different kinds of sufferings and problems, comfortable things. Whatever we accumulate, we dedicate the merit to reduce in suffering problem in our daily life, to reduce, unhealthy friendship, unhealthy relationship. Thank you and have a happy Sunday.